right, so we're on. How'd you like that intro music? I feel like I said, love boat, oh, so shiny and new. Yeah. So this is Reverend Mike McMorrow. I'm the spiritual director here at the Center for Spiritual Living here in Granada Hills, California, where we welcome all who practice their beliefs in faith and love. And I suppose in a way it is the love boat. So it's the love boat of consciousness where you are joining myself, and we have Michael Carlin, who's our audio guy. So this could not happen without him. So maybe drop him a thank you on the chat there if you have a moment. And so let's, you're most welcome. We have a little meditation service here this evening, a healing meditation. So I have a little chat. If this is your first time, there's a little chat. We have an opening ritual, then there's a little chat. Then we meditate for about 20 minutes, and then a closing prayer. All right, so let's start, as we like to do here, by taking a deep conscious breath and release. Oh, boy, that felt good. So let's do another one, and on that release, just allow ourselves to just melt into this moment. Ready? So taking a deep breath and holding it at the top. Hold it, and then release, and then exhale all the way out. Get rid of all that old tidal air. And then just inhale. And so you just naturally inhale all the way to the top. Hold it, and then release all the way out. And breathe. So let's just allow ourselves to just dissolve into this eternal now moment as we come together for our call to service, which we call lighting the flames of faith. And we perform this ceremony to promote the universal consciousness of life, which acknowledges that all faiths, all sentient beings come from the one great universal presence, which we call spirit. That fundamental to this truth is the unifying nature of all religious thought and experience, which we honor here this evening. So behind me, you see 10 candles. So the first candle we have lit for the Tao, honoring the universal path of harmony and equilibrium, the natural way. We light the second candle for shamanic traditions, honoring the beliefs and practices of all indigenous peoples, the way of primal spirituality. The third candle we light for Hinduism, honoring the path of knowledge, action, and devotion. We light the fourth candle for Judaism, honoring the ethical path of living by sacred law. Fifth candle we light for all forms of Buddhism, honoring the Four Noble Truths and the path of compassion. We light the sixth candle for all forms of Christianity, honoring the Christ consciousness as the path of love. We light the seventh candle for all forms of Islam, honoring the path of submission to the will of God as the highest calling. We light the eighth candle for the universalistic religion of Baha'i, honoring the path of unity and peace. The ninth candle we light for all forms of new thought, honoring the metaphysical path of mental healing through the practice of universal spiritual principles. And the 10th candle we light for all those who are as yet unaware of the power and presence of Spirit in their lives, and for the space we hold for them here at our center, in our online community, and within the secret chamber of our own hearts. And behind me, you'll see on the altar the healing candle. So let's just remember all those who have passed and their families from this COVID-19 business. And for anyone suffering, including yourself, please put them silently into the light. Anyone you wish to have experienced the healing flame of God's eternal love. So surrendering to this moment then, for just a moment longer, and connecting with love itself. That aspect of the divine that is the wellspring of all love. That this is the healing agency of life, the healing agency within this world of conditions where God and ourselves have chose to incarnate in this exact moment in time to give witness to the creative power and presence of the living intelligence, the infinite power, the sacred heart of the divine. And so as each one of us goes within and checks in with that indwelling presence, knowing that we need look no further than within our own hearts, we connect with it in this moment in a conscious way. And from this place of connection with the divine, we speak our intention and our truth for this time together. That we allow ourselves to just be open to whatever experience presents itself here this evening. That we allow ourselves to sit with the question, with any sense of uncertainty of how things are unfolding. That we allow ourselves to experience this meditation time just as it is, free of any expectations of what we think it's supposed to be, what we're supposed to get out of it, what God's supposed to tell us, some gigantic insight. Or is it done yet? Are we there yet? We're just releasing all of that and allowing ourselves instead to connect with this moment, breath by breath. So in this way, the one thing that we can know is lies the possibility of experience a sense of peace and serenity within these very challenging times. And so taking a deep breath, we release these words, these thoughts, the thoughts and intentions of anyone listening. We release them now into that aspect of the mind of the divine itself that knows only to say yes. Yes, it is done. So we just release it in gratitude, knowing it is so. And together we acknowledge this, by saying, and so it is, amen. So I hope that hiccup did not come through on the, yeah. So one thing that if this is your first time, we might as well get that out of the way right now. I'm all about allowing the joy of the Spirit to come through any situation where we come together, whether it's an online experience like this one, or whether we're gathering sooner rather than later here in our sanctuary. that I love the idea that part of worship is allowing God to show up and have a good time by means of each one of us. And so I don't know that we actually think about meditation in that way, but I think we can, because at times I have had meditations where a wave of joy or even humor has swept over me. I've had rock and roll meditations, right? Which really was probably not meditating. But it was the time I spent on the mat for that day. And so that's just what presented itself. So I think it's important that the main thing about this whole meditation gig is just making time to sit and do it in this consistent, a time commitment in a consistent way. And if we can do that just working with the breath, you will find that the meditation practice itself will grow with time. So, and so what I wanted to share tonight, I'm really enjoying this book and enjoying just kind of tripping through it with you. This week I'm using a placeholder. Rita Lawrence sent me a really beautiful card. Thank you, Rita, if you happen to be watching. And so remember, we were speaking to compassionate action from this book, Start Where You Are, which has been written by Pema Chodron, a Zen teacher, a Buddhist teacher, monk. And last week, we spoke to keeping the vows you have taken. And within that was about really kind of just being courageous with who you are, with your, just to be courageous with who you are and to allow others to be who they are. So part of the bodhisattva vow could be to not to be afraid of others and not to be shut down. So in other words, we open the doors and the windows of the soul so that we can be seen, and to hold that space for others to be able to do that for themselves. So, and so the last paragraph of that part was that you might think that you are working with others because you are much more sane than they are and you want to spread that sanity. But a more profound thought is that we realize that the only way to go further is to open those doors and windows and not protect ourselves anymore, but to work then with whatever arises, which was what our opening prayer was about, right? That's the only way to go deeper, the only way to work, to wake up further. The motivation for making friends with yourself then becomes wanting to help others. So you see that shift. Making friends with yourself just naturally pulls you into wanting to help others. These two work together then. So they're tied together. So we become friends with ourselves through our own practice, which is recognizing, our authentic self, warts and all. You can't help others if you're not making friends with ourself. So now this is not in some self-absorbed way, but remember, through our meditation, we're learning to observe. And in that observation, then, we're responding rather than reacting. And when we're responding and observing, we're staying out of judgment. And if we're staying out of judgment of ourselves and being less critical of ourselves, then we are apt to be far less critical of others. Because really, we, for those of us who get into the habit of doing that, guilty as charged, really what's at the root of that is we just are so harsh in our own self-criticism. And this is not helpful. It's not helpful. It doesn't build peace and serenity within our mentality. And then we project that out onto others, which can really have calamitous effects. And maybe you have seen that, which kind of leads to this next slogan. Refraining from outrageous conduct is what we're speaking to today. So the second basic principle is to refrain from outrageous conduct. If you have this ideal of yourself as a hero or helper or doctor and everybody else as the victim, right? So we're coming in as the superhero, and these poor fellows, they're lucky to have us. That's not good. The patient, the deprived, the underdog, then we are continuing to create the notion of separateness, right? So this separateness thing, so we're wanting to see and cultivate a sense of oneness with all of life, and particularly with our fellows, with ourselves and with our fellows. Well, we can't do that if we're seeing us as above or below even someone, right? Someone might end up getting because what we end up doing is creating this notion of separateness. So someone might end up getting more food or better housing, and that's a big help. Those things are necessary, but the fundamental problem of isolation, hatred, aggression is not addressed. Or perhaps you get flamboyant in our helper role. We often see this with political action. People make a big display, and suddenly the whole thing doesn't have to do with helping anyone at all, but with building themselves up. And she has this, for those of us who remember the 70s, or some of us were there, not really me, because I was still in high school, but I do remember this famous photograph in which the National Guard were all lined up. And a girl, a young woman, a student, had walked up and put a flower in the end of one of those guns. So do you remember that? I know I do. Because this photo appeared in all the newspapers, right? The little flower child putting a flower in there. Now, Pema read a report in which the soldier who had been holding that gun, so the soldier holding that gun later became a strong peace activist, and said that he had never before experienced anything as aggressive as that young woman coming with her flower and smiling at everybody and making this big display. Now, isn't that something? That the action of coming up, smiling at everyone in a very, flamboyant way, and then putting this flower in the end of the gun, that he found that to be the most aggressive thing anyone had ever done to him. So most of those young guys in the National Guard were already questioning how they got on this particular side of the fence anyway. And then along comes this flower child. She never looked in his eyes. She never had any sense of him as a person. It was all display, and it hurt. So imagine that. He has the gun, she has the flower, and he's feeling hurt and feeling like she's being aggressive. Because it was all for display, and it hurt. So that's part of the point of this slogan. You have to question what's behind your action, especially if it's making a big splash. So this is really true for ministers, right? So we can really fall prey to that, right? Because we're often out in front. And so, it's important that for those of us who are in roles of leadership, particularly roles in leadership where we're out in front, right? That we come to it with a sense of humility and really a service or servant leadership, as they say, to remember why we're there. And we're not there to make a big show. Now, the other part of that, because before knowing this story, to me, I always thought that young girl was so courageous to go up and do that, right? And now we hear the other side of the story from the soldier, and then I think, well, geez, how equally courageous of the soldier to be able to stand at attention and not react, right? Even as he's feeling threatened. We're not, that tension, because now we're in this time where we have this upheaval again going on. Mostly peaceful, right? But yet people are squaring off. There's separateness. And so the question, Pema kind of begs the question, so what would this young soldier's experience have been like if this young girl had looked every one of these guys in the eye as she went down and maybe even playfully winked at them and just, in that kind of I see you kind of way. And then put the flower in there, it would have been a different experience, right? You can leave that off, Mike, if you want. So, anyway, I think that's a great story, and I think that's a great place to leave off. So next week, there's these three basic principles. Next week, we're going to be talking about cultivating patience. So, really, I should probably read that tonight, but in the interest of time, and, this is really not supposed to be about me, but it often is, right? Because I, too, have a practice rather than, the perfection of the moment, I suppose. But, my practice could use some up-leveling, I'll just say it. So, but I'm delighted to be here with you. If this is your first time meditating, we're going to practice breathing, and when I speak to following the breath, what I'm talking about is just paying attention to the movement of the air in your nostril. So that may be hot, cold, maybe just a movement of the air, it might be pressure, whatever it is, and you're focusing on that. And the idea is, so you can't hold, believe it or not, you cannot hold more than one thought at a time. Right? So when we focus our attention on the breath, the mind stills. And so then we'll do a quick body scan, which is a type of mindfulness meditation, but we're not really doing it. We're doing it rather quickly. And then we move into the silence. Excuse me. And then in the silence, we're just going to be, again, focusing on the breath. Now, you may find yourself, you may get snagged by a thought, right? So you'll be going along and just paying attention to your breath, and then all of a sudden you find you've just kind of wandered out in some little thought thread. Just acknowledge it. Oh, thinking. And you can just take a deep breath and release. And then just bring your attention back to the breath. And then also part of this is monitoring sensation in the body. So you're resisting. So for instance, you may feel an itch. And the idea is to breathe into the itch. Believe it or not, you can do this and actually go deeper rather than scratching the itch. You can go deeper. It can actually lead you to a deeper meditative state. So in this way, you're using the sensation of the body to deepen in your meditation. So it's kind of an adapted Vipassana style, if you've ever heard that term. All right, but I've tweaked it a little bit for our purposes here. And then we'll sit in the silence for about 15 or 20 minutes. I'll keep an eye on that so you don't have to fret that. You can just surrender to it. And then we have a little closing prayer that we do using the breath at the end, okay? So, enough chit-chat. Let's get going. So let's just take a deep, conscious breath. And release. We're going to do this 2 more times. And then on that exhale, just let your shoulders drop. Let your chin stay up. Taking a deep breath. And release. And then just allow your hands to rest comfortably. Taking one more deep breath. Release, and your tummy is just rising and falling easily. On the in-breath, we're allowing it to expand and then just release. So we're bringing our attention to the bottom of our feet. Following the breath. So as the mind stills, you have this interesting observation of the awareness of the breath and the bottom of your feet at the same time. Then up the foot, so the top of the foot, maybe feel the foot in a sock or the shoe. Moving up the leg, into the knee. Sometimes we twist our knees a little bit. There's a little torquing there, so just release that. And so what do we mean by releasing? So we find some tension in the body somewhere. We just take a deep breath. And then we just release. And you'll be surprised how effective that is in releasing tension in the body. Into the sit bones. And then we just bring our awareness to our spine. So our spine is erect but free of tension, balanced over the sit bones. The head balanced over the spine, which is balanced over the sit bones. Tummy rising and falling. So we're going to take a deep breath together, and on the exhale, just allow your shoulders to fall from your ears. Right? So allow the neck to lengthen. All right, so taking a deep breath. And release. Return to the breath in the nostril. So the eyes either closed or slightly opened, whatever is comfortable. And just release your face between your eyes and your mouth. Can you feel that? There's tension even there. So taking a deep, conscious breath, and then we'll move into the silence. Taking a deep breath. And releasing. As we move into the silence now for about 20 minutes. Staying with the breath. Gently bringing our attention back to the room. So we're going to work with this sense of peace and serenity. As we imagine, acknowledge, or know that there is this flame of divinity within our very heart center. So now we are breathing in. With each inhale, we are fanning that flame. And as by definition, the Spirit is everywhere present. One of the aspects of the divine is light. So we breathe in light. So we're fanning this flame now with the breath of light. And exhaling love. We're breathing in light. And in that breath is commingling at a molecular level, at an atomic level with the body temple. And in this abundant universe, takes what it needs and releases the rest. So we breathe in light and exhale love. Breathe in light, exhale love. So with each in-breath, that flame now has become a ball of light at our very heart center that is expanding just a wee bit more with each in-breath, in the same way that we would blow up a balloon. So breathing in light, exhaling love, breathing in light, exhaling love. So now this ball of light now is a globe, expanding side to side, front to back, top to bottom, staying with the breath, breathing in light, exhaling love. And this globe, now we're sitting in it. We're sitting in this globe of light, staying with it a bit more. It continues to expand to where the room itself now is filled with the very light and love of the divine. That at an atomic level, that we have been exchanging God for God, taking what we need, refortifying the body temple, and exhaling that which no longer serves us. So we may even feel our heart expanding through this exercise, so that we not only are now embracing love for our authentic self, but we see that there is an overflow and plenty of love to share. So much so that at atomic level, we know that the light and love of the divine is activating in a vibrational way, that every atom, every molecule, every cell, every organ, every muscle, every sinew, every tendon, every bone every neuron is aligning with and firing with and vibrating with the infinite Om of the universe itself, that we are attuning ourselves with the divine. That in this way, every aspect of the body temple is now aligned and activated and vibrating as the life of the divine. That we are expelling anything, just releasing without effort, anything that no longer serves us. And that what is left radiating is a body temple that is now fully recharged, revitalized, resistant to pathogens of any kind, including body, mind, or spirit. That we are allowing ourselves to experience an open heart that is in fact the allowing, the wellspring of love itself, the indwelling divine, to make itself known. And so we bring into the light those with up until now, we bring into the light those whom we love and care for. Take a deep breath. And then we bring in those with whom we may have been in contact with in this day. Breathe in light and exhale love. And maybe even bring in those that maybe we've been in discord with from the TV screen. And breathe in light and exhale love. And so from this place of conscious unity with the One, let us know together then that there is but one power, one presence, one source, one life, one living intelligence, one infinite sacred heart of the divine, impressing and expressing itself in, through, and as all of life, and in, through, and as our life now. That we are opening our mind and aligning ourselves with this creative intelligence, this living intelligence that is infusing us even now with ideas to bring forth our greatest yet to be. That we are allowing ourselves to remain open-hearted, so that our relationships now are connected on a deeper level. And these are all of our relationships. With our intimate beloveds, with those with maybe we build business with our neighbors, our friends, our spiritual community, that we feel the connectedness of all life. That we allow ourselves to feel the joy of life expressing as creativity in all of its forms, and that we commit now to open our life to allow the spontaneous expression in the most courageous of ways of creativity, of light, of love, of equanimity and compassion for all beings. So we just take a moment then to consider the many blessings in our lives. A roof over our heads, clean water to drink, a seeming infinite supply of power, physical power in the form of electricity. For those of us who have air conditioning, just grateful for all things great and small. And so from this place of gratitude then, for the words spoken here this evening, and the intentions and the word held within the hearts of anyone listening now, that we take a deep breath, we release it, We release it knowing that it is done, and in knowing that it is done, then when we hit the pillow tonight, we hit the pillow knowing that all is well, that we drift deeply into a restful sleep, dreaming sweet dreams, that we awaken feeling rested and revitalized with a sense of excitement of taking on the new day to bring to the day the gift of insight, where we just intuitively spot the ways in which the divine is not only expressing itself as the activity of our life, but is working for us, or working through us. And that's a good thing. So we take one more deep breath. We release it. Let it go. Allow it to be so. Together we acknowledge this by saying, and so it is. So that was good for me. So thank you for joining me this evening. If this is your first time joining us, we do have a live stream Sunday service that begins at 10:30 that has live music with our music director, Ken Francis, and Jason Goldstein join him. On occasion, we do have guest singers. And I'm there, and then our assistant minister, the really wonderful and buoyant and joyous Reverend Nancy Woods. So that's worth getting up and meeting us for right there. And then I prepare a message that's hopefully provocative, right? So you'll at least, if not feeling inspired, you'll have something to think about anyway to take you through the week, and maybe a bit more. So I'm delighted to have spent this time with you here this evening, and just as you go about your business, stay safe, stay strong, know that you're loved, and I look forward to meeting you in person soon. Peace and blessings, and good night.